Tom, you're good to go.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the Town of Drumheller Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, November 16th. I'd just like to say before we start anything, sincere condolences to Mayor Heather's family, all the Kohoots and the Kohlberg family on the passing of John Sr. And I say this not just because he was a friend to most of us, but that John Sr. was a sincere, incredible friend to the Drumheller community. His philanthropy, his generosity, his support for everything Drumheller for years and years and years and years will be absolutely sorely missed. So to Heather and the family, again, sincere condolences. It's a tragedy, not just for your family, but for all of Drumheller. So the committee of the whole agenda. Can I get somebody to adopt the agenda, please? Fred, was that a hand?
Yep.
Okay, seconded.
Tony?
Tony, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And we'll begin with the 2.1, Drumheller Valley Bus Society presentation. And I believe Bill Wolf will be doing that, or Daryl, did you want to speak first?
No, Bill can take it away.
Okay, Bill, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, folks. And pardon me for getting a little bit on the stage fright, even though I'm sitting in my house. I haven't talked to council since 2014. You already have the business plan in front of you, and we'll just discuss parts of it. On page 3, the mission statement, in the language of the day when we were formed, the Valley Bus Society is a nonprofit organization created to ensure that accessible transportation is available for handicapped persons and senior citizens. The operations shall be carried out primarily in Drumheller and District. The board of directors has 3 appointed representatives, one from the Elks Club, Gail Schrock, one from the Town of Drumheller Council, Tony Locker, and one from the Town of Drumheller Administration, Dave Brett. Coincidentally, our president, Daryl Zamersky, happens to be employed by the town as well. On page 4, historical, in 1984, the Elks Club and the Royal Purple recognized the need and had the vision to create the Valley Bus. In 1988, the Canadian Transportation Agency had issued a mandate that persons with disabilities had a human right to an accessible transportation network. The then City of Drumheller embraced this need and worked with the Elks and the Royal Purple to make Drumheller an age-friendly community even before that term became a term. Transportation services, we have 2 main programs, Dollar Bus and medical charters, that are subsidized by the town. The town council has recognized that most of our clients are living on a fixed income and therefore cannot afford to pay full rates for the transportation requirements. An additional 2 programs, seniors outings and retail charters, are charged at a cost-plus basis, so we're not subsidized. The Friends of the Sunshine Lodge Committee pays the bills for the seniors outings at the retail rates. On page 5 is operations. The society has regular transportation services from Monday to Friday, except for the special events, including the Christmas season. We did try a 7-week trial period for 6 months, and that failed miserably as riders simply moved to a new date, and we did not gain any new clients. Charters are available regardless of operating hours, but must be pre-booked. The Drumheller Subsidy. The Valley Bus does not have a contract with the town for transportation service. Rather, we request annually for a subsidy to maintain our operations. This subsidy is greatly appreciated and forms about 40% of our income. Without it, we would cease operations. Not included in the business plan is the business relationship to the town. The society is renting office space and parking space from the town public works. The town mechanical services is also our major repair service. These items are priced to us at less than retail, which forms part of the subsidy. The variance or the subsidy realized for the office rent and the mechanical services is about $32,000 annually. This does pass the audit test for supply of services to outside agencies, as this is a portion of the subsidy, since if we were required to obtain these services elsewhere, the cash subsidy would be required to be substantially increased. We are very thankful for this relationship, and additionally for the fact that heating and cooling functions in the office are available to us in the appropriate seasons. Regional funding. The neighboring municipalities have historically funded the society, generally conditional to the purchase of buses rather than operations. As you can see from the ridership analysis on page 13, as to why this occurs, we have very few pickups from these areas. The municipal neighbors do support the capital purchase because they recognize that a majority of their seniors have moved to the Drumheller Seniors Residences because of their access to care. Alberta Gaming and Liquor Control for the casino. The society has enjoyed the availability of funding from casinos. This provides about $14,000 per year to our operations. We have found that it is impossible for us to defer these monies to the purchase of buses since our vehicle costs are just too high. Also not included in the business plan is the Valley Bus versus public transportation, since we're in that area. The Valley Bus is registered as a not-for-profit society under the direction and control of its own managing board. It is not under the control or influence of any other body other than legislation and regulatory bodies. As such, we enjoy the access to the AGLC fundraising and grants that are not available to the municipality, and we have the ability to hire our staff under any arrangement subject to Alberta employment regulations. Public transportation, on the other hand, is a function of and under the direct control of the municipal government, even if it is a contracted service. If the AGLC or Alberta Corporate Services determined that there was a mix of functions, perceived or in fact, where the Valley Bus Society was running a public transportation service and was possibly controlled or influenced by the municipality, the VBS could lose its society and charitable statuses, any AGLC funding potential, access to grants that are otherwise not available to municipalities, and the potential requirement to repay those funds as determined by the funding body. On page 6, there's the section for awards. In 2018, we proudly accepted the Premier's Award for providing barrier-free transportation services to the community. This is proudly on display in our office. Annual statistics. We transport about 13,000 riders per year. Any attendants ride for free and are not included in those stats. We also average 100 to 150 charters per year, typically for tours and drive-home service. Some key challenges. As the province continues to transfer its expenses to the municipalities are required to constantly reevaluate their budget priorities. Because of the limited funding, the majority of our clientele is restricted to, in addition to their own increases in expenses, it is very difficult for us to raise our client rates. The last client rate increase was 2018. We are exploring the rates for retail services, retail charters, and bringing in some vehicle replacement funding into that formula. Salaries are about 64% of our costs. We are doing whatever we can to stagger the shifts so we have less idle time. Of course, this is referring to buses parked idling in the parking lots. Of course, we would like to increase our ridership to avoid idle time altogether, but still pick up the clients in a timely manner. Vehicle-related costs are about 32% of the budget, primarily in ramp repairs. This is moving equipment exposed to some really bad weather and is expensive to maintain. And the fleet is getting older. One bus got too expensive to maintain and could no longer be certified to carry passengers, so we donated it to the fire department for fire practice. Our office expense is only about 4% of the budget, but must also be reviewed. With the society moving to public works, we have seen a reduction of $250 per month in this area. Casino revenues, about $14,000 per year, is 7% of our annual budget. Please refer to the last paragraph of this section, which is the top third of page 7, for an update of the casino distribution of funds formula, which is currently under review by the AGLC. Page 7 is also referring to the pandemic. This has hit us quite hard in ridership count, as the primary target for COVID is our client base. The client numbers are rising, but they are still a little gun shy about going out in public. Opportunities. The hours for buses have been cut to avoid idle time. It has cost more for the vehicles because we have a ridership restriction due to the physical distancing and to the sanitizing, but we are coping. We have been researching with the neighboring communities for scheduled shopping trips as their seniors, which would be partially funded by the municipality. The pandemic has put a temporary hold on that venture. Page 8, there's financials. There's a financial chart showing the percentage of revenues and expenses for those components of the budget. The GST status. We recently had a review of our GST status since some of the definitions had changed since GST was implemented in 1991. In summary, we are no longer zero rated. We are now providing an exempt service. Zero rated now refers to cross-border services only, and obviously we have very few clients in that category. Page 9, appendices. The business plan that you have in front of you beginning on page 9 includes financial overviews, charter service, current rate schedule, fleet information, the ridership stats, consolidated balance sheet and operating statement from the last audit, and the summarized budget for 2018 to 2022. The page 9, the appendix 1, is the charter service count. 2019 realized a lower number of contracts, but with more revenue. The rates had changed in March of 2018, but some of the contracts in 2019 were quite good sized. There is a potential that some of the medical transfers were incorrectly included in the dollar bus because of some of the cash sales were reported, making it difficult to extract those numbers, but affects only the rider count. Page 10, appendix 2, which is the subsidized rate schedule. Even though a ride is $5 from Sunshine to downtown, it is also $5 to get back home again, and this adds up quickly on a fixed income. Because of this, Friesen Brothers provides free transportation for riders once a week, which has been quite well received and allows everyone a chance to get out, even if it's just for coffee and a face-to-face visit once in a while. Page 11, appendix 3, charter estimating. Simply speaking, the charters are invoiced at cost plus 20%. These rates are being reviewed to split between vans and buses, as well as a formula for the vehicle replacement program. Page 12 is the appendix 4, which is the fleet. And you know that we did have unit 777 was there before, and that's the one we donated to the fire department. Page 13, appendix 5 is the annual stats. This details the rider count for 2019 as compared to the total ridership of 2018. And this will take a lot of explaining, but it's there for your reading pleasure before you go to bed tonight. Page 14 is appendix 6, which is the consolidated balance sheet for the operating statement. 2019 shows a deficit for two reasons. There was a doubling of revenues for cash sales between 2018 and 2019, which was found and corrected in 2019. In 2018 and prior years, the manager was also working as dispatch. This reduced the effectiveness of the manager position, so really was a higher paid dispatcher. The manager is now working with reduced hours, but dispatching only when it's required, allowing her to research grants, gain more sponsorships, and with proper management, hopefully reducing some of the expenses. Page 16 is the appendix 7, the 2019 to the 2022 budget. The budget revenue line, sponsorship other, includes any combination of additional charters, bus sponsorship, general sponsorship, and or reduced expenses. This budget will be very difficult to follow in 2020 because of current restrictions, but we are running at a small surplus, September being $3,900. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to give you this presentation, and I wait your questions.
Thank you very much, Bill. Excellent, excellent presentation. Any questions?
I'll just have one here for Bill. Thanks so much for the very detailed presentation. So detailed that I don't even have any questions for you. So
Thank you.
For that, Bill. I do want to recognize publicly, though, the service that the Valley Bus provides in our town to the seniors and the disabled. It's almost 13,000 people in the ridership there for 2019. Understanding challenges for 2020 for sure. We saw decreased ridership, decreased operations, and even a blackout period for service there for a while. We did just come through our annual general meeting here, and I'd like to reach out to the listening public there. Anyone is welcome. We are looking for some public at large members to the board. Also occasionally looking for drivers, and again, sponsorship is a key part in keeping this service alive, which is well deserved in this town. So thanks for all the work you do, Bill, and for the board at Valley Bus.
Thanks, Tony. Any other questions? Anyone? I have,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Christine.
Sorry. Yes, I just wanted to catch this. I don't know if my iPad had cut out or something, but Bill, did you say something about if there was a change in how Valley Bus was run, that you would lose your status and have to repay funding? Is that what did I hear that right?
You heard that right, and it's not in the business plan because I don't want it to be published. But if we became a public transportation system, even if it's under a charter system with the town, we would be under the influence of the town, and therefore lose our society status, lose our AGLC status, and lose our access to grants that were not available to the municipality, and would be subject to repaying some of the grants or the AGLC funding as they saw fit, if it was determined that there was going to be any influence presented to us from the town.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Other questions? Anyone? Further to that, Bill, I can understand the situation that you wouldn't want the town telling you what to do and et cetera, because then you would become public transportation in some way. I guess I'm wondering, however, if the town had a contract, for example, with Valley Bus, would that kind of work? I mean, it would be basically that the town just, renting Valley Bus services. And also, I'm wondering if the town could somehow contract or even share your dispatcher. I mean, things would be, two separate sets of books, two separate organizations. Could the town share your buses, for example, if the buses weren't being used by Valley Bus? I don't know. We're just looking at, some sort of public transportation possibilities, and just wondering if there is an opportunity with Valley Bus without possibly, affecting your status.
Okay, going back just a spot, when we first joined the AGLC, and I was going through this with the Friends of the Sunshine Lodge as well, there was 16 pages of criteria to get an AGLC license. There are now 179 pages of criteria to get a license. So AGLC is going through all of their 15,000 licenses to see who qualifies and who does not qualify. So when I was talking to the AGLC about having a contracted service with the town, they said, if we feel ever that there is any influence from the town, you would no longer have a license and you would no longer be society status. So that depends entirely on who is reviewing the case and their interpretation of the facts.
Yeah, I fully appreciate your dealings with AGLC. I've had many dealings with AGLC over the last number of years on a number of different issues, to the point where a part of other organizations, we are almost at the point of saying, AGLC, we don't really want or need your funding because you are so restrictive and so ridiculous. So I don't know. I mean, it's great to have the funding from the casinos and whatever, but their conditions are becoming a little bit too ridiculous, I think. But anyways.
Tom, it's Daryl. I think further to kind of your question and Bill's response, we've talked about the town renting a bus, kind of chartering a bus on an ongoing basis to do a bit of a route around the community for public transportation. So that would actually potentially solve the issue around public transportation for those who don't qualify under the Valley Bus rules right now, or more importantly, AGLCs. But it would also provide us with a bit of a financial contribution or steady stream of revenue to Valley Bus, which would help them as well. So we're just looking at that, and we've been talking to the province about seeing if there's some way they can help us with that as well. But that's something for 2021 for sure that we're looking at.
Yeah, excellent. Any other questions of Bill or Daryl or Tony or anybody? If
I do,
not,
Tom.
Chris has a
go
question.
ahead.
I do. Sorry, Daryl. So did you say we were looking at the potential of getting the bus? So that wouldn't be a contract then that would void their status?
Right. So this would be simply a charter, Christine. So we would be renting a bus from them, and then whatever we did with the bus would be up to us, because it's as Bill pointed out, Valley Bus rents those buses outside of the responsibilities under AGLC with respect to the mandate. So whether you're renting it for a Christmas rides home or a wedding, or to provide some sort of public transportation, that sits outside of the responsibility to AGLC that Valley Bus has.
Excellent. Nice to hear that they've got that option in there for us. Thanks.
Great. Any other questions, comments? So thank you very much, Bill. One of the most comprehensive and excellent reports that I've seen for a long time. Thank you very much for that. Moving along, Director of Infrastructure, 3.31 Cemetery Scatter Garden. Is this going to be Dave or is this Daryl?
Yeah, it's going to be Daryl tonight. I'm subbing for Dave. So,
Okay.
So this has been something that's been in preparation for several weeks now to come before council, just for some discussion before, and it requires it, depending on the discussion, it would come for readings of passing the bylaw and some of the amendments there. So if you look on page 20, so the first thing is our bylaw, and the first changes are really on page 20, where it's and the text in red are the additions to the existing bylaw. So it's the addition of a scatter garden. So there's a definition, talks about a designated area in a cemetery to scatter cremated human remains. And the scatter garden monument means the granite monument for the memorialization of cremated human remains. So that's really that in the definitions. And then if you scroll down to page 24 in the agenda, you can actually see there's a section there about the scattering of cremated remains. And so there's the discussion there about to do it. And with a cost of $95 to actually provide that, for you to provide that service. Only will happen in the summertime months, so obviously when there's no snow on the ground or anything like that. It's for humans only, so no pets. That we wouldn't be doing that. And then it has to follow the same thing that you would do if you were putting something in a burial plot or in a columbarium. So you need to follow, have a burial permit issued under vital statistics. You're usually working through a funeral director to do that, and that you must do it within the area that's actually been provided or set aside. So I don't know if there's any questions on that as we go through it, or if not, I'll just keep going down to the bottom on page, sorry, I'm just coming through. You can see that there's some drawings on page 35, 36, 37 of the agenda. Basically, it shows the adjacent to the columbarium design is a scatter garden design that we're showing. And so there's two scatter gardens, kind of a north and a south. In the middle of it is a gazebo structure, so people can sit there and contemplate and memorialize their loved ones. And there's a bit of there's a wall there as well for you to put memorial plaques on, and very, very lovely looking thing. So, excuse me. And then the idea is that I think the idea with these things is that you kind of use one side 1 year and the other one is planted with flowers, or maybe they're both planted and you're scattering amongst the flowers there. But it's basically it's not just bare earth, you're actually putting in a bit of vegetative cover as well. So, and that's it. So you can see that on page 39 is the cost to do this. So it's $95 for that. So this is, so MP did the design of it. It kind of follows a number of similar installations. I know Dave had gone to several cemeteries to actually look at different options and what other places have done, and came back with what looks to be like a very reasonable looking solution for a scatter garden for Drumheller. So yeah, any questions on that or discussion?
Looks really great. I appreciate all the work that went into that. It's going to be a great addition. Yeah,
so if, we can always tweak the design of it, because obviously it won't happen till the springtime now. But what we would do is, if no one has any objections, we'd bring the bylaw back in the next couple of weeks for approval, just to make those changes and then move forward with the scatter garden construction for the springtime.
I have a couple of questions. No questions on the bylaw. Looks good to me. I'm just wondering, so the design where the columbarium is, so the scatter garden will be going like south up the coulee kind of a thing? Like there's a road at the back there?
That's right.
So it'll just be an extension? So that road will be taken out and just going around, or?
No, if you look on page 36, Tom, the road actually is quite elongated already. Yeah. So even where the scatter garden is, there's still space to the south of that. That's grassed area and a paved area. So I think that's possibly where the next set of columbariums may go, on the south end of that as well, or not, maybe not next set, but future sets of it would go as well. So there's no additional work, no additional road work to be done, or grading or anything in that site.
Okay. So where there's kind of hedges in there now.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess my question would be around the landscaping. It looks really nice, grass and whatever. Is that area, is that irrigated? Like, do we have sprinklers there?
Yes. Yes, yeah. That's part of the irrigated area.
Yeah, okay. So I was just wondering about, they mentioned.
And of course, we'd have to modify some of the irrigation because we're putting in flower beds now, right? And with this, so.
But that's already installed, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that looks excellent. I was just going to mention golf. St. Andrews Golf Course had so many people wanting their ashes spread on St. Andrews Golf Course in St. Andrews, Scotland, that they actually had to make a scatter garden on the golf course, because people were coming from all over the world, literally wanting to scatter ashes on the golf course. So they actually made a scatter garden there.
That's really good. It didn't take you more than 30 minutes to mention golf today. Very proud of you.
That's right. 30 minutes exactly. I held off.
Tom, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all, we're not going to make the cemetery into a golf course.
No, I hope not.
Tom. Okay. And Daryl, where I noticed would there be a memorial plaque or any place for plaques, or is this the garden and there's not going to be any memorial places for the ashes that are spread?
Yes, there is, Fred. So on page 37 of the agenda, where it sort of shows the details of the zoomed in features of it, there's actually a little red square or rectangle, and it says memorial wall on it. So that's where people would have their loved ones' names inscribed or etched on there.
Perfect. Thank you.
And of course, if it's successful, you'd add more of those over time. So.
Just a further question on page 37 there, Daryl. It
Yes.
looks like there's 2 6-foot sections on either side of the aggregate slabs. Any idea
Yes.
the width of them? Or how long do they run? And
I don't, Tony. They're full width to that area right now. So, I mean, my guess is it's probably 40 feet. I'm just speculating wide.
Okay.
So,
okay, and then other areas for kind of expansion?
well, it's just more decoration. And then again, so the stuff to the north would be getting closer towards the existing columbariums. And then the others to the south would be the potential for expansion in the future of either columbariums or maybe a more scatter garden if that was a popular item.
Okay, good, thanks.
Any other
Daryl, I have a
questions?
question.
Go ahead, Christine.
Yep. Thanks. So I'm just looking at the fee structure here on page 39. So the memorial wall, if you get an engraving, is that $230 on top of the 95, or is it just $230 and then you've already paid the 95, or how does that work?
It's an addition, Christine.
Okay,
Right,
thank you.
so it's $95 just to have your remains scattered, and then if you'd like it memorialized, it would be an additional cost to that.
Great, thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much, Daryl. On to 3.4, 3.41 COVID-19 update.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
go
we
ahead,
can.
Greg.
We just listened to Dr. Hinshaw's update for this afternoon. We in Drumheller remain in an enhanced condition state. This afternoon, she updates 860 more cases in the last 24 hours as a result of 12,000 deaths. We have over 10,000 active cases, 20 more deaths, 264 hospitalized, 57 remain in the ICU. She did offer a comparison to the flu, and as of today, there's been not one lab confirmed case of the influenza, as opposed to this time last year when we had over 8,040 deaths. She stresses that the next 2 weeks will be an extremely important time. The nation itself now has over 300,000 cases. She reiterated again, there's no perfect approach to maintain to the basics of social distancing, mask wearing, washing your hands, adhering to the provincial guidelines for cohorts and gatherings. But this 2-week circuit breaker or the 4-week circuit breaker that they've discussed at different levels, meaning closing things down and everybody being as special, assiduous to details of how they conduct themselves will be, she's making it sound like it could be basically make or break the next couple of weeks as to how far down the path we go. We have, just for interest's sake, outbreaks at over 309 schools in the province, 65 schools are on the watch list. They cannot keep up with the contact tracing. They have potentially 15,000 contacts per day as a result of contact tracing with the result of contact with infected people, and they cannot keep up. They're going to hire more people. I believe it was 380, but they in no way can keep up with the numbers at this time. 380 people to augment the contact tracing staff. They bring the team to more than 1,100 people. Again, she's stressing what we've known all along, and now the limits based on your condition, whether you're an open area or a enhanced area such as we are here. I can talk for hours on it, but I'd be happy to take any questions or find out any information anybody would like at this time.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Any questions? Anyone for Greg?
I have a question.
Go ahead,
So,
Christine.
Greg, out of all the enhanced areas in Alberta, how many are mask mandatory?
I don't think she's, well, just the cities that have passed the bylaw, and I can't count them right now. It would be the cities, municipal areas that have passed the bylaw. They would be mask in certain, they would be mask mandatory in indoors. Calgary, and I don't want to lie to you, I can't give you all of them right now.
Okay. But would it be safe to say any that are over a certain percentage have now started adopting mask mandatory stipulations?
Well, right, I don't know. I quite don't know how to extrapolate that. Right now, our testing rate is 7%, Corey?
Yes.
Yes, 7%. Our rate in Drumheller, given the small population, but given the number of people, I think is 122 per 100,000, and over 50, that's when cautions are issued.
Right. Okay. Well, I
can
would
find out. I'd be happy to research that, but I can't give you a good answer right now as to who.
Okay. Well, I just would like to reach out to my colleagues and say that now that COVID is really hitting home here in Drumheller, we should probably consider the potential of issuing mask mandatory here, because we're an older population and we already know it's definitely here and definitely hitting people we know and love.
Okay. Any other?
April has something, Tom.
Go ahead, April.
I just thought it might be useful for the listening public to let them know that we, all those of us that are involved in planning events that are coming up in the next few weeks have been in direct contact with public health even this morning and are following all of those guidelines. And based on the information from public health, we are.
Calgary, Edmonton.
Greg, you're on. Do you want to mute? Just we can hear you guys. Sorry. Yeah, so based on those guidelines and everything, we are good to continue and to proceed with the events as planned. There are a lot of protocols being put in place to maintain physical distancing and allow one-way flow of traffic, etc. And not. So I just thought it might be important to mention that I know that there is some confusion with language around social gathering versus an event, and they are, based on the guidelines, two very different things. And so I just thought I would share that here.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, comments? I guess I would just like to say, I don't know if you have any suggestions, Greg, that people in Drumheller could maybe think about in terms of helping to reduce contact and stuff like that. Do you have any words of wisdom for us?
I don't know how wise Mr. Zawierski, but just strict adherence to the protocols and the rules set out by AHS. The social distancing, mask wearing helps tremendously. Fielding questions today about people that wear the plastic shield and how much help is that. And we see healthcare professionals on television wearing the mask and the guard, but the face guard, the plastic shield does not nearly offer as much resistance and protection as wearing a mask does. So proper wearance of PPE, social distancing, hand washing, the things really that we've been espousing since springtime, and maintaining the cohort groups, limiting travel. It's not prohibited. Talking to some staff today, they didn't travel on the weekend thinking it was prohibited. It's not, but the government is asking to please, think, do you really have to go somewhere before you travel from one enhanced area or to an area that's of a greater caution level perhaps than we are. So just, I think of a little bit of people thinking collectively as us and as a group, and how can we best comport ourselves to limit the spread of the virus. And all those rules are, fairly simple but fairly clear, I think, at this point.
Yeah, excellent.
I'm
Any
not
other?
sure if Greg said what the stats were, but just hot off the press, Drumheller now has 25 cases and 1 death attributed to COVID. So.
Wow.
And another good point to say is we only have 2 grocery stores. And so we are coming in contact with it a lot.
Yeah, I guess my comment would be we have to all do our part. We have to stay home when we can. If we don't need to go out, don't go out. Wear a mask. It's not a big deal. Wear a mask if you're anywhere around anybody. I know our pickleball group, we decided to take a 2-week hiatus from pickleball. Don't have to. It's not regarded as an organized group sport. And the BCF is still open, but we just decided, that would be a good thing to do. So I think it's all up to every one of us that if everyone does their part, we can beat this thing. We can limit this thing. But if people don't, then there's going to be some dire consequences, I think, and it's going to get worse. So I think it's up to every individual, and we can do it.
Yes. Yes, when the health officials in the States, for example, which is still at the top of the list for infections and deaths, I believe, all over the world, when they advocate that mask wearing could have, I don't know how they arrive at these numbers, but mask wearing by the majority of the population could have saved 100,000 lives. Now, those numbers are hard to reach, and I'm not sure how they get, but that makes you think. It has to make us all stop and think about just maybe a little bit of sacrifice right now. We don't have to do that. Stay alive and well, and do just a little bit of sacrifice and a little bit of community thinking, and I am my brother's keeper to a degree, but I think we have to do that.
Yeah, further to that, I guess my comment has always been to people who have asked me, if we don't, act responsibly, every single one of us, and the cases get worse, then the inevitability of shutting down everything is probably going to happen. And nobody wants that. I mean, that's the worst case scenario. So we can stop having that to happen if we all act responsibly. So that's my biggest beef, is I don't want everything to be shut down. But if things keep getting worse, that's going to happen. And people are really not going to like that. And that's going to be terrible for the economy and businesses. And so
we do have encouraging news for everyone on the vaccines. I'm sure we've all read about that and heard about that. So that is encouraging, but the vaccines will not end the pandemic. They will certainly help, but the vaccine, when available, commonly available, will not end the pandemic. So we're all in this together. We all go forth with the same protocols, thinking of each other, and keep on going, I guess.
Any other comments from anyone? Don't see anything. Thank you very much for that, Greg. Quarterly reports 4.1, Daryl.
Thanks, Tom. So you can see the quarterly report for CAO, just stuff that's continuing on through the fall time or over the summertime. So some of the stuff's been taken off our list. ICFs, the intercollaboration frameworks between us and our adjacent municipalities, have all been submitted to municipal affairs. We've had some discussions with our solicitor about derelict buildings, and we had said that this was going to be something we were going to try tackling a couple of project special buildings in 2021 to see about getting them actually taken down or fixed up. We don't think there's much to do with actually fixing them, so it's most likely taking them down. Service levels, we've started doing a review of what we do. We actually have quite a few service levels. I know Dave normally reports on service levels that he's got in Public Works. We do have a lot in development and building permits there. So we'll be bringing something forward in the next little while on what some of those measurements look like right now and how we want to work on those for 2021. And then, of course, we did start a bunch of work this summer on reopening the facilities as part of COVID. So our work at the BCF and Aquaplex to start a September 9th opening did start about 6 weeks earlier than that, and involved, bringing staff back to work and trying to put a lot of measures in place. I think Darren will talk about that a bit more, but just one of the areas that we did a lot of work at, and that was sort of before we started getting back into the areas that we're in right now with respect to increasing cases in our community and around us. So I think that's about it. So if anyone has any questions.
Questions on Daryl's report? But the only comment I would make is on staffing, that we have we have a few new staff people in staff positions.
Yeah, we do have a development officer in training that started 2 weeks ago. So the goal is to be able to take someone that knows the organization well and develop that person into doing a development officer role. We actually have hired a recruitment agency to hire a couple of key positions that we have been unable to fill, manager of economic development, corporate services. And then we've been slowly filling other positions throughout the organization over the summertime and into fall. So that's been a positive, but seems that people are a bit apprehensive about relocating or coming to work. If you're looking for a certain work skill, people are resistant right now because of COVID. And that was about a month ago. So we'll see how that moves over the next little while. But yeah, slowly but surely.
Great, thanks. Any other comments, questions for Daryl? If not, on to Erica, Communications Officer.
Hi. Okay, so for communications, I've got a couple strategic plan updates for us. Sorry, I'm just scrolling down the agenda here. Okay, so through July through September, the branding was launched, and there's still a number of tasks that are in progress or ongoing, but obviously a number of them have been completed, including internal documents, social media, our vehicle wraps, the mural on the plaza wall. The website the current website has been rebranded. There was a launch event in September, and we've got lots of branded swag and apparel. Things that are still in progress includes the Public Works vehicle logos, just waiting for the vehicle manifest to start that project. Community signage around the downtown area and other town of Drumheller buildings. Staffing uniforms among our recreation teams, our event team, and Public Works. We're going to continue expanding the apparel for resale in the future. And business cards are ongoing as we're needing to replace them. Email signatures are still being implemented, and ensuring that the font implementation through our various software systems as well. So the new website, the drumheller.ca project, was awarded to Box Clever of Edmonton for a custom website. Project is underway, and we are expected to have that completed by the end of November. The committee consists of 9 staff and 1 elected official to assist with the project. And the town app guidelines. So as you know, See-Click-Fix was launched in February of 2010 with 53 different submission categories for users to report issues. We did make a recommendation during the summer to limit the categories to 23, 24 if you do include the COVID-19 assistance submission. We did implement this in the summer of 2020. The policy, the Director of Infrastructure Services and I have been fine-tuning that with the expectation to present that in the fourth quarter. There are 2 reports attached to this for CCLIT Fix. One that is the requests to date from launch and the other just for the past quarter. So the amount of requests to date has been 563. Closed requests is 531. Our SLA percentage to date is 69%, and overdue requests to date is at 142. So 563 requests to date is approximately 63 requests a month. So it is certainly getting utilized. So yeah, the next 2 pages are or 3 pages are the summary reports or the expanded reports of the different categories and what is being used most often and how good the SLA and everything like that is. So any questions?
Any questions of Erica? I don't know if this is kind of part of your department or not, but concerning the swag, so shirts and stuff. So the town is going to be selling those, but is there not going to be some kind of a cooperative venture with town retailers?
That's the ideal approach, Tom. We're just working on a plan of what that's gonna look like. Yep.
So we won't necessarily have the town in competition with retailers. They will be selling town stuff and like getting a percentage or something like that.
The idea would hopefully be to sell them at wholesale and then the retailers sell them at MSRP.
Yeah. Excellent.
Great.
Any other questions, Erica? I don't see anything. So community development and social planning, April.
Evening, everyone. So before you is a report that speaks to the priorities as determined by the needs assessment, as well as the strategic priorities for 2020. I guess just a couple of key highlights. There is currently a significant wait list for the community counselling program. However, we are hoping that we will soon be able to address that with some of the grant money that we've had. But in this quarter, there was a wait list. The movies were really successful as a way of us reaching families and also youth who came out in droves to attend. That was an opportunity for us to share with them some useful resources and information about supports during COVID as well. We do have a vacancy, and that has been reposted, and that will close at the end of this week. And of course, we did fill a vacancy with the community events coordinator, which was fantastic. And I just thought I would go through just a bit of the data. So on the second page, it speaks to the 17 clients that were waitlisted in Q3. We did recommence the Good Food Box during this period, and so those numbers are increasing month on month, which is pleasing to see as well, that people are taking advantage of that program. I think something that's particularly interesting is, despite the fact that we didn't run events from March onwards, we have still had 285 attendees in Q3 with 1,181 attendees for the year at Family Fun events. And that's also been a great opportunity for volunteers to participate and get their hours if they're students. And also a really nice statistic for Q3 was that we had 691 meals distributed through the Hot Meals program, which is a subsidized program in Q3. So if you guys have any particular questions, I'm happy to take them.
Questions?
Not a question, more of a comment. Excellent work, April. You never cease to amaze me. You're like the ever ready Energizer bunny. Great to see that the people in the community aren't slipping through the cracks or we're on the way of closing those cracks. I appreciate all the work you do. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. Actually, one comment is, much as the Hot Meals program is taking off and people are hearing about it and getting signed up, we have an in-home support subsidy with some of these grants as well. And that has not been taken advantage of as much as the Hot Meals. And so if you have, if you know anyone in the community or anyone approaches you and they're looking for that kind of support, please do send them our way. We do have that assistance available.
Excellent. Other questions for April? I just had a question concerning the counseling. We've all heard how COVID is negatively affecting our mental health, and even throw in there the situation with the election in the United States, how it's negatively affecting our mental health. So I'm just wondering, is there funding from the provincial government and federal government for increased counseling because of COVID?
Yes, and so what I was referring to there, so we have received funding through the ECSF funds, which is the Emergency COVID Support Funds, Emergency Community Support Funds. Anyways, it's a provincial funding that we've received, and one of the ones we've received is specific to mental health. And so that's why I say, whilst I'm reporting on Q3, here in Q4, we have got some funding, and as soon as we can get that contract signed, which I'm hoping will be the end of this week, we can actually start utilizing some of that funding to address this wait list that we had in Q3, which the report speaks to. So in addition to that, BCAVA applied in partnership with us for the provincial mental health and addictions grant. And again, that was successful. And so there is some funding through it to go to mental health. So we have received some federal funds, and we will be receiving some provincial funds to address what are quite significant mental health and addiction needs within the community, as well as some family violence in other areas as well.
I guess my other question concerning that is, are there enough counselors?
Yeah, so actually Wheatland County Counselling has advertised for a full-time therapist, and in addition they have a number of student therapists, so they are upping their staffing, conscious of the fact that we have received this additional funding and that we want to provide additional support in the community. So they are acting now to ensure that the staffing is there to provide those services. So I'm pretty confident that we will have capacity to deliver.
And one other comment, just, I don't know if you know anything about the Salvation Army red bag thing. Do you know how that's going to work this year, given all the COVID stuff? Like, I know the last few years I've helped out sorting, and there have been, 50 people sorting mountains and mountains of food, which took hours and hours and hours, which I don't think that's going to be feasible this year.
That's actually a really great question, and I don't know the answer, Tom, but I will find out.
Okay, because it's certainly very, very valuable, and I know it really helps out the Salvation Army.
And I think it would be fair to, sorry, Daryl, I think it'd be fair to say that this year they're going to need it more than ever. So, yeah.
There's a very good article in last week's Drumheller Mail about the red bag effort and sort of some of the changes that are required and where you can get bags and what to do. And also, as April says, pointing out the increased need that we're already seeing in the community. So never mind at Christmas. So yeah, whether it's online or look at the paper, but I encourage everyone to take a look at that and figure out how they can help.
Okay, any other questions of April? Don't see any. Okay, on to Manager, Recreation, Arts and Culture. That would be Darren.
Hello, good afternoon. Just some highlights from my report there, focusing on the strategic priorities, of course. The Community Recreation Service Level Review through the October Strategic Planning Workshop that we were all part of, it was recommended at that time that we perhaps consider renaming this something along the lines of facility utilization, and that allowing us to monitor and watch for trends and opportunities through our facilities and that. So COVID obviously has had a direct impact on our operations in these facilities, and so what we're doing now looks a lot different from what it was 9 months ago. And so we will continue to watch that and monitor that as time goes on here. Facility condition assessment, that one there, unfortunately, has been delayed somewhat. We have had a recent grant that was made available to recreation facilities that allowed us to conduct an energy audit, and that audit's been conducted, but we haven't got the results from it yet. It has the potential for additional grant money to be awarded for implementation, as well as, engineering study first and then project implementation. And so I'll continue to work with the Director of Infrastructure and Manager of Technical Services to see where that leads us. For Heritage, Arts and Culture, at the board and committee review meeting that we had at the end of August, it was determined that this board would halt and that we needed to be better defined. So further up conversation occurred with it at the strategic workshop as well with Gordon. And looking at that, it's a much bigger project and task. In order for us to do it right, we need to better define each of those elements and then develop a framework built within our organization for that. So we'll be looking to start tackling that in the new year again. In the meantime, we still continue to have funds available for the Arts and Culture grant. So we have awarded two grants, and that was for the Drumheller Diwali and celebration that recently took place, as well as the upcoming Festival of Lights. We've contributed to those events. The other part there in my report is speaking to the relaunch of recreation facilities. As Daryl had said, we slowly got going in the summer with the arena and ball diamonds up and running to provide some recreational activity. The Aquaplex and the BCF then swung their doors open September 9th after lots of planning and working with AHS to make sure that we were doing things as required. Naturally, the main thing there is to ensure that we're operating facilities in a safe fashion for staff and patrons. As far as the arena goes, the groups that are back in there are the Drumheller Dragons, Minor Hockey, Drumheller Skate Club, Fun Team, and some of the adult groups are back using the facility. We've added family cohort public skate times to try to fill in some of the gaps. And as recent as this past weekend, the Junior A League Drumheller Dragons have actually started their league play now. And of course, that's under restricted spectator numbers and as well as a self-imposed mask policy that they've imposed for their home games there. So they're trying their best to look out for people. The Aquaplex, we continue to take reservations there for all of the swim times and activity there. The swim club is currently using the facility on a regular basis. The September, when we swung our doors open, of course, council graciously allowed the BCF and the Aquaplex to be free for the community. Some of our stats there were showing that we were operating at approximately 50% of what we would have been at the same time from 2019. But keep in mind that the pool was closed for about 2 weeks for maintenance in 2019 too. So it skews it a little bit. October, we're seeing about 37% usage in comparison to the same time of 2019. So it's slowly starting to increase, even though the numbers, I said 50% before, we're up to 37 now. Membership revenue, we're currently sitting at about 52% of what we budgeted for in 2020 for our membership revenue at the Aquaplex. So we're only halfway to where we should be by about this time of the year. At the BCF, we also require reservations here. Staff are continuing at both facilities to assist the public through that reservation process. What's happening now at both facilities, we're starting to see that we're getting some no-shows they make a reservation and then they don't show up for it. So we're encouraging the public to please call when you're not coming for your reservation. And we've actually just started here now that if you're a no-show for one of the classes, so whether a drop-in class or a registered class, we are doing a follow-up the next day, just as a friendly reminder that you know, to please call in, because we want to make sure that people are able to get into the classes that they want to. And if people are booking in but not showing up, we're not allowing everybody to get an opportunity to get into those classes. So we're going to start following up a little bit with that and hopefully getting cooperation through education. So September, we unfortunately didn't capture numbers as well as we would like to, but it's estimated that we were about 30% of our usage in September as compared to what it would have been in 2019. October is showing us that we're about 41% of usage in compared to what we would have been of October 2019. So as you can see, numbers are down, but numbers are down also because we have capacities in place. When it comes to our membership actual revenues for 2020, at this time, we're at 56% of our membership revenues of what we had originally budgeted in 2020. So we're only similar to the pool, only about halfway to where we should be. As the weather has changed here in November and that, October was quite nice. So people stayed outdoors as long as they possibly could. But as we've seen the weather start to change, we're starting to see an increase a little bit of people coming into the facility, which is great. One thing that we will have to examine and talk a little bit about is we did make a motion that for membership extensions during COVID, that we don't want people coming back before they're ready. And so we had actually put in there till January. That was maybe a little optimistic because we were hoping that things would have maybe subsided a little bit more with COVID. And in fact, we're going the opposite way. So we've still got lots of members that aren't comfortable coming back yet. And so we probably need to and should revisit that to allow them to stay away if they're not comfortable. The big thing is that bookings of the banquet halls at the BCF here has really taken a hit. We've been fortunate enough to have 2 small weddings here since reopening. And I say small, they stayed under the 50 capacity. We've had some meetings. We've had farmers market, minor soccer's back in on Tuesday nights under appropriate plans. But we're looking at right now approximately 10% of what our 2020 booking budget should be for the BCF. So all facilities have ramped up cleaning and making a very conscious effort to make sure that we're offering a positive and friendly environment for people to come in, because it's trying times. And so we're trying to put a smile on our face, and which in turn hopefully puts a smile on everybody else's face. So we continue to do what we do best, and that's create an experience. But the recent announcements through AHS and that, with different restrictions in place, we did field a lot of calls starting Friday as to what we were doing. And although we're in an enhanced area, many of them weren't directly applicable to us in some of our user groups. So open to any questions.
Okay. Any questions of Darren?
I have a couple comments. Darren, are you have we adjusted staffing in any way to the reduced visitorship?
So, Fred, unfortunately, with all the extra cleaning that we have to do and meet the requirements of AHS, we are not adjusted to the point one would think, right? In fact, we are having to staff up to meet all the cleaning requirements.
Wow. Darren, I'd like to pass something on. I got a note this weekend regarding the fireworks, so I'd like you to hear. It says, please pass on to the staff that as one of the one of a proud, visible minority in town. I'd like to thank them for allowing the fireworks for Canada Day for Diwali this year. I heard all my neighbors on their back decks watching happily. Everyone was safe, and I think it was a great morale booster for the citizens of Drumheller. So good comment coming in on that. Thank you. Thanks, Darren.
And just to pass on the kudos of that, of course, that event wasn't organized directly by the town of Drumheller. We supported it through funding, but that was the organizers of the Diwali celebration itself. Hi, Christine.
Hey, Darren, thanks. I want to say, as somebody who has been living in the gym as soon as it was open again, that it's very clean and very, very good in there. The staff is doing a great job, and I feel safer in the gym than I do in my own house. Like, it's way cleaner in there. So kudos to you guys for that. I just had a question because I know that I've had some problems, and I think maybe I'd talk to you about that with the booking. And this is potentially why maybe some people are missing their appointments, is I was accidentally double booking and not knowing it. Is there any way we can find, like, can we cancel on our own, or do we always have to call in?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of those glitches that we've not been able to work out with ActiveNet. As much as we've inquired with them, and that there's just doesn't seem to appear to be a way that we can allow individuals to cancel their reservation online. We haven't got a great answer as to why. So the best that we've been able to do is say, please just give us a call. We're happy to do it for you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And absolutely, I have noticed it getting busier in there, and it's a great thing to see. Thanks.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments, anybody? A couple of comments from me, Darren. First of all, just an example of, why some of the numbers might be down. I usually go in the mornings, and we used to have many seniors walking. And I think for obvious reasons, seniors are not really interested in being there right now, unfortunately. There's a few, but I know there's less than 10% of what we used to get for seniors walking. So that's just an example of how the COVID has affected the numbers. I would echo what Christine says about your excellent job that you are doing in your COVID protocols. I feel very safe there. Like, I work out fairly regularly in the morning, and everything is cleaned, and people are keeping space between them, and so it's really quite good. One last comment. I just wondered if you could comment on the Festival of Lights, how that is going to work and how it's going to be different from past years.
I'm going to refer that question to perhaps April to answer.
Okay.
And the reason for that, Tom, is the recreation side of things is not involved with the organizing of Festival of Lights.
Okay. No, you had mentioned it. I just wondered.
April, are you there?
Maybe April had to leave. Anyways, doesn't matter. We can get some information later.
Okay.
Any other questions of Darren? Oh, April back. April, could you comment on Festival of Lights?
For asking me a question, I think.
Could you comment on the Festival of Lights?
Yeah, I missed the beginning. So what specifically about the Festival of Lights?
We're just wondering how it's going to work this year, how it might be different from past years.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So we tried to do whatever we could to ensure there was no opportunities for mass gathering. And so one of the biggest points at which people gather is when we light the tree. That's when you'll see 1,000 people gathered in one spot. And so you may have noticed that on Friday from 5 to 6:30, we are offering families and cohort groups the opportunity to come and decorate the small trees downtown. So that they are distanced each at their own tree, and at 6:30 they can light their little tree and we will light the big tree to avoid that kind of moment of mass gathering or the opportunity for it. That's one difference. On Saturday itself, Festival of Lights runs from 3 till 7. There are a smaller number of fire pits, and we are encouraging families and cohort groups to move between the fire pits, and they will be distanced at said fire pits. Santa will not be inside this year. Pioneer Trail will not be open to the public during Festival of Lights. And so Santa will be in his sleigh outside of Jungling Works, creating effectively a barrier around him, so that photos can happen, but they will be distanced. Other examples, there will be one band performing at Munty Park this year, and following COVID guidelines, there will be seating distanced 2 meters between each seat and 3 meters from the performer. So again, just following those guidelines. Yeah, so lots of work has been done to ensure that there is flow, that the roads obviously will be closed, so there'll be lots of space, and ensuring that we are compliant with those guidelines.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you very much.
No problem. Oh, and I guess just to say that all of the stores that are going to be open and offering specials and everything else will also be following guidelines in their stores too. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions of Darren? If not, we have a closed session. So if I could get a motion to have a closed session, go in camera for flood mitigation.
Fred, and then Tony, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, I move we go into a closed session to regard, hang on a second. Motion, council close the meeting to the public to discuss flood mitigation project as per FOIP 16-1.
Okay. And seconded, Tony?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Carried, thank you. So that will be right till the end of the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you for the great reports, everyone.